The first tremor was almost imperceptible, an almost poetic quiver that rippled through Lunar Prime's regolith at exactly 0902 UTC. For a moment, as the grand dome of the United Earth Council's summit chamber swayed, the delegates thought it was nothing more than routine seismic drift. Chancellor Amina Reyes, resplendent in her ceremonial violet robes, raised an elegant hand to still the preceding applause. In the gallery above, Ambassador Hoshi Ikeda of Mars-Earth Trade Union murmured into her comlink, "Did you feel that?" Outside, the lunar skyline glittered with domed habitats and glimmering solar arrays. A pale blue Earth hung low in the sky, its swirling clouds a reminder of the world these leaders had sworn to protect. On the far horizon, the black void of space beckoned with its infinite promise and its lurking dangers. Then the world, no, the entire Sol system, erupted in shock. At the very edge of the lunar viewport, a stitch of crimson light coalesced. It grew with impossible speed, tracing a needle's path through space and atmosphere. In the chamber below, screens flickered as sensor arrays processed the phenomenon. "Unidentified energy signature closing at Mach 4, announced the chief. Technician, voice tight. Before anyone could react, the beam punched through the dome like a spear of living fire. A rush of heat blossomed across the summit hall. The beam's core was molten red. Its periphery glowed like the tail of a dying star. In an instant, the summit dais was engulfed, and the world lost its steady heartbeat. When the fire faded, Chancellor Reyes was gone, her podium reduced to molten slag, and half the council lay silent among fractured columns and shattered domes. Screams reverberated through the station as emergency bulkheads sealed. Smoke and dust choked the corridors. Security teams scrambled to rescue survivors, but comms were already jammed by an unmistakable truth. This had not been an accident. Back on Earth, in the bustling holographic newsrooms of Neo-London, anchors froze mid-sentence. The live feed, from Lunar Prime, cut from polished diplomacy to raw catastrophe. Red flares marked the summit site. Anguished voices overlapped in dozens of languages. Across the Pacific, in Tokyo Arcology, commuters stared at wrist displays showing pixelated ruins. On Terra Nova's Emerald Plains, farmers watched drones swoop in to survey damage. Within minutes, interstellar channels lit up with speculation. Some whispered of rogue separatists, others feared an internal coup. But deeper analysis of the beam's signature shattered any illusion of a human culprit. The energy profile matched nothing in Earth's arsenal. It bore the unmistakable hallmarks of Galaxy Confederation technology, an organization that, until then, had kept peace through cautious trade treaties and exchange programs. Admiral Luc Renard stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Earth's flagship floating in high orbit. With lips pressed to the viewport, he stared at the dwindling fires of Lunar Prime's summit site. "They have declared open war," he whispered, voice grizzled. Around him, officers huddled over consoles, projecting possible vectors. Vega, Procyon, distant pockets of the Andromeda Gate. No pattern emerged. The strike had come from the deep void, where human sensors had never ventured. In the command center's holomap room, General Kavita Rao's calculated gaze swept across the projected data overlays. "Containment is impossible," she stated flatly. "Their reach is beyond our detector range. Retribution must be swift, if only to show we dare not be trifled with." Her aides exchanged uneasy glances. Earth's defenses had always been built to repel pirates, not to withstand an assault from the high-value weapon of a galactic power. Meanwhile, in the streets of New Beijing, crowds gathered under burning skies, polluted by the flares of emergency thrusters diverting civilian traffic. Holographic memorials of Chancellor Reyes flickered above the smashed street kiosks as volunteers handed out food and comfort packs. A tear-streaked boy clutched a miniature model of her statue. His hands trembled as he placed it at a makeshift shrine. "She saved us from climate collapse," he sobbed. "She promised peace with the stars." On the far side of the world, deep in the underground catacombs of old Mumbai, refugee families huddled in transit pods. They had fled floods, droughts, and corporate wars, but none had prepared for interstellar slaughter. Mothers whispered prayers in forgotten dialects, clutching children to their chests as sirens wailed overhead. Across every time zone, one revelation crystallized. Earth was no longer the lone ruler of its destiny. Somewhere, out in the infinite night, the Galaxy Confederation had marked humanity for destruction and had struck first, without warning. As the dust settled in orbit and on Luna's barren plains, Chancellor Reyes's favorite quote, etched on a plaque beside her lectern, glowed faintly in the emergency lights. "In unity, we find our strength. In courage, our purpose." Those words became a rallying cry, echoing from orbital docks to subterranean shelters. And though shock and mourning gripped the planet, a single spark of resolve ignited within every human heart. We will not bow, we will not forget, and we will not fail, because the day the stars turned red was only the beginning. On Mars, the vast glass domes of Ares City glowed beneath a pale rose sky as streamlined freighters, once cargo haulers for terraforming supplies, slid into dry docks for conversion. In the cavernous hangar bays, welders in reinforced exosuits scrawled power conduits along hulls, while technicians strapped missile pods and point defense turrets to hardened hull plates. Lead engineer Zhenli watched a plasma cutter carve away a container hold and murmured through her comlink, "We'll need another week on the new targeting arrays if we want sub-second lock times." Around her, the air tasted of ozone and molten metal, smells that only days ago would have meant progress and expansion. Now they meant vengeance. On Titan, the methane seas reflected distant Saturn's rings as massive shipyards, built for ice harvesters, retooled their slipways. Orbital cruisers emerged from assembly blocks with fresh coats of stealth grey paint and disruptive field emitters bristling along their flanks. Dockmasters barked orders into throaty communits. "All drones to Quantum Encryption Protocol Alpha 17. Test the phase shields." Beneath a lattice of scaffolding, Convoy Commander Marisol Vega ran diagnostics on plasma torpedoes, her gloved hands steady even as her heart pounded. Each launch tube would one day carry retribution into the galaxy's heart. Meanwhile, in the sulphurous skies of Venus, flotillas of aerial forges drifted above the cloud decks. There, artisans in pressure suits tended to glowing crucibles of hyper-alloy, pouring molten rails for railguns that could punch through capital ship armor. The forge's heat vents sent shimmering plumes into the clouds, painting the horizon with streaks of gold and crimson. Below them, technicians tested coil accelerators with live rounds in vacuum chambers, the thunder of each discharge rattling. Their bones, Captain Adebayo Okafor, overseeing the operation, paused as a fresh shell landed in the target pit. Perfect grouping at 100 kilometers. She allowed herself a grim smile. Humanity's firebrand was taking shape, even at the edges of the system. Among the ice-scarred cliffs of the Kuiper Belt, asteroid miners, once indifferent to politics, cast aside ore drills for mine lasers and hardened hull plating. Their ragtag flotillas of converted freighters now served as stealth supply ships, ferrying antimatter charges to forward depots. In the dim glow of a helium-3 refinery, technician Soren Tiger tapped at a holoscreen, redirecting power from excavation, lasers into prototype gravity mines. "These babies will bloom in the void," he said, voice thick with pride. "One tether break and a galaxy cruiser won't know what hit it." Back in Earth's orbit, the valiant Dawn served as the nerve. Center for Project Vortex. General Kavita Rao convened her most trusted officers in the holomap room, where a three-dimensional star chart of surrounding sectors flickered in mid-air. Star clusters, transit lanes, and sensor dead zones glowed in ghostly blue. Rao's voice cut through the silence. Galaxy defenses are layered, gate shields, patrol grids, grav sensors. We cannot punch through by force alone. Instead, we'll use darkness against them. She tapped a control, and slender black shapes, vortex drones, drifted into view. Each unit carries a micro-antimatter warhead and sensor-piercing array. They'll slip through adjacent transits under the cover of solar obfuscation. Once inside, they'll target shield generators, then exfiltrate before any counterstrike can vector in. Commander Elias Martel frowned. Risky. If we lose even one, we can't afford caution, Rao interrupted. The Galaxy Confederation will understand only strength and surprise. On Earth's surface, memorial walls for Chancellor Reyes sprouted in every city. In New Beijing's Central Plaza, citizens lined up to press handprints into shifting hologram murals. Volunteers in white jackets handed out remembrance ribbons and ration packs to families who still trembled from the shock. Journalist Lena Cortez recorded interviews, her lens capturing the stoic determination etched into every face. This is no longer about mourning, she reported. It's about forging the future she believed in. In Neo-Accra, street poets declaimed verses beneath lamplight, weaving Chancellor Reyes's speeches into chants of defiance. She spoke of unity, they cried, voices rising. Now we unite in purpose. Across the world, artists and engineers, scholars and soldiers, all lent their skills to the war effort, fueled by the conviction that humanity's very soul hung in the balance. Yet even as factories roared and shipyards blazed, fissures of doubt appeared. In a hidden bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, a council of diplomats debated whether to reach out to neutral systems for aid. This conflict could consume us, warned Ambassador Elena Petrov. We risk losing not just lives, but the moral high ground. Some argued for open parley. Others insisted that mercy now would be seen as weakness. But Rao's message rang. Truest at every command post and civilian heart, strike first, strike hard, and strike swiftly. For if humanity hesitated, the Galaxy Confederation would not stop at Lunar Prime. They would come for every world, every colony, every shred of human ambition. As the last test rounds thundered across shooting ranges on Phobos and the final bolt torqued into a turtle-shell drone on Callisto, one truth became undeniable. Earth had transformed overnight into a weapons forge, and on the smithy floor of war, humanity's fury was being crafted, red-hot, unrelenting, and ready to unleash. A brewing solar storm rippled across the inner system, bathed in lurid auroras that danced on every planet's night side. To most, it was a breathtaking spectacle. To General Kavita Rao, it was cover. In the command bay of the Valiant Dawn, Rao's fingers flew over hollow controls as she monitored the 3 Vortex stealth drones edging across the storm's eye. Each drone, a sleek obsidian wedge no larger than a cruiser's shuttle bay, hummed with latent power. Micro-antimatter cores pulsed in their bellies, sensor-piercing arrays blinked cold blue. Around her, officers waited in taut silence. "Deploy on my mark," Rao ordered. Her voice was calm, but below the surface lay steel. "Remember, shields first, then flagship. We disable the gate, cripple their command, then withdraw." Outside, the Dawn drifted ghost-like beyond the heliopause, its grav drives muted to avoid detection. In the cargo bays, squads of solar marines strapped into pods, ready to board any crippled vessel. Every system check flickered green. Even Admiral Luc Renard, watching from the viewing port, allowed himself a curt nod. "May our aim be true." Phase 1. breach the gate at 0317. Earth Standard Time, the solar storm reached peak turbulence. Magnetic eddies disrupted conventional sensors. Plasma clouds masked thermal signatures. Rao gave the order, Obscura, go dark. All three drones powered down extraneous systems. Their hulls, coated in adaptive metamaterials, absorbed stray photons. They slipped through Orion's gate's outer perimeter, an array of glittering pylons strung across 200,000 kilometers without triggering a single alarm. Inside the transit corridor, the drones drifted toward the gate's shield. Generators, twin reactors perched on opposing pylons. Without shields, the constellation of defense satellites and patrol cruisers would be blind. In microseconds, the first drone latched onto Generator Alpha. Its nano-drills chewed through the hull, embedding a warhead directly in the plasma conduit. The second drone shadowed it, hacking the local control node to sever failsafes. Sparks danced across the generator's casing. Then, as if on cue, a dull roar pulsed through space. Generator Alpha's shield collapsed in a cascade of blue-white energy. The gate's barrier flickered and died. Phase 2. Surgical strike Rao's fingers. Danced again. Now, knives out. In response, the dorsal hatch on each drone ground open and they expelled their warheads. Guided by quantum transmitters, the antimatter charges streaked toward the Galaxy Confederation War Council's flagship, the Tenebrous Dawn, moored at the gate's core. Moments later, from the Tenebrous Dawn's bridge, Captain Ira Voss watched. Her shields flicker under impact. Across her tactical readouts, red warnings blossomed like bloodstains. She barked orders to her weapons officers, but the enemy strike was surgical. A precise volley that tore through the forward shield matrix, severed reactor cooling lines, and triggered a catastrophic core breach in the flagship's starboard engineering deck. Firestorms bloomed inside the Tenebrous Dawn, trapping the Council's leaders in sealed compartments. For the first time, the Galaxy Confederation felt true vulnerability. Phase 3. Exfiltration. As the flagship's alarm klaxons wailed, Rao gave the final command, retract and vanish. The drones eked out of the twisted pylon fields, slipping back into the storm's shadows. Behind them, the Orion Gate's defenses sputtered online, but by then it was too late. The shield generators lay in ruin, the flagship crippled, and Confederation reinforcements scrambled in confusion. Above, the gate's remains, the valiant Dawn's tugcrafts raced in, snatching the drones from space. Solar Marines pried open their containment pods, extracting charred wiring and silent cores. Rao watched each drone's hull carefully. Not a fragment of metadata remained for enemy forensics. On the Dawn's comm channel, Admiral Renard's voice crackled to life. Report. Rao exhaled, eyes still on the holomap where the gate's shields flickered red. Mission accomplished. Primary and secondary objectives met. Casualties, 0. A chorus of relieved expletives echoed in the bay. Aftermath and reckoning back on Earth, the strike's success ignited a wave of euphoria. Hollow news feeds looped replay after replay. The moment the shield collapsed, the explosion aboard the Tenebrous Dawn, vortex drones materializing from solar winds. In city squares, crowds chanted Rao's name. Fireworks blossomed in every time zone. Children wore model drones on necklaces. Yet amid the jubilation, Rao issued a sober reminder over every public channel. This is but the first act. The Galaxy Confederation will retaliate swiftly and without mercy. We must steel ourselves, remain vigilant and push onward. Our fury is our shield, our unity, our weapon. In the dark void where Orion's gate once stood inviolable, now drifted a shattered constellation of pylons and debris. And somewhere beyond the storm-swept horizon, the Galaxy Confederation regrouped, their wrath burning hotter than any solar flare. Humanity, having unleashed its first strike, braced for the counterstrike that would decide the fate of all worlds. The aftermath of the Vortex raid resonated across the solar system like a pulse wave. On Mercury's sun-scorched plains, heat-reflective domes glinted as maintenance crews deferred routine repairs, their faces alight with grim satisfaction. In the ice caverns of Europa, children pressed their noses against frost-crusted viewport glass, watching hollow broadcasts of the crippled, tenebrous dawn being towed toward a makeshift graveyard beyond Pluto's orbit. Across every colony, every habitat, every battered city on Earth, a single truth echoed. Humanity had struck back, and won. The thunder of celebration in New Beijing's Central Plaza, citizens gathered beneath the towering monument of Chancellor. Reyes! Holographic banners rippled in the wind. We remember, we fight, we prevail. At exactly 1922 Earth Standard Time, when the final drone cleared the storm, fireworks erupted overhead in synchronized cascades of green and gold. Music blared from floating speakers, ancient anthems remixed with pulsing synth beats that shook the ground. General Kavita Rao stood on the grand dais alongside Admiral Luc Renard. Dressed in her ceremonial combat fatigues, stark lines of victory stripes painted her cheeks. She raised a gauntleted fist to the roaring crowd. "Tonight," she shouted, voice amplified across the plaza, "we have shown the galaxy our mettle." They learned a lesson. Underestimating humanity is a grave mistake. The crowd surged, a living sea of upraised fists and flashing holophones, capturing the moment for eternity. The Council of Unity. Meanwhile, deep within the fortified halls of Lunar Prime's rebuilt council chamber, Earth's leaders convened in urgent session. Ambassador Elena Petrov tapped a data slate, displaying live feeds of reinforcements streaming toward Orion's Gate wreckage. "Our strike was surgical," she observed, "but it has cost us surprise. The Galaxy Confederation will respond. In force, we must prepare alliances." Chancellor pro tempore Jamal Hassan nodded gravely. "Send envoys to the Helion Pact and the Vega Collective. Offer technology sharing, resource pooling, anything to bind them to our cause." Defense Minister Saito Kurakawa added, "And mobilize the civilian militias on Titan and Callisto. Every ship, every weapon, every mind trained for combat will matter." From a side alcove, Liaison Officer Mirana Voss rose. "Our scientists on Titan have reverse-engineered elements of the drone's stealth coating. We can adapt it for civilian transports, evacuation vessels, supply convoys, any ship that needs to slip past patrols." Murmurs of approval filled the chamber. Humanity's greatest weapon, it seemed, was not just its firepower, but its ingenuity. The galaxy's retort light years away, within the steel-clad citadel of the Galaxy Confederation's High Command, the air sizzled with tension. The wounded flagship Tenebrous Dawn lay dry-docked in orbit around a barren moon, its hull jagged and blackened. Councillor Voss stood before the command hologram, her face a mask of controlled fury. "They struck at our heart," she hissed, "and now we bleed." Around her, admirals from Vega, Sirius and Procyon sectors debated retribution's scale. Some advocated a surgical counterstrike, an echo of Earth's tactics. Others demanded total war, bombardment of key Earth cities, to break their spirit once and for all. Councillor Voss silenced them with a single gesture. "We will do both. We shall rain fire upon the habitats of Phobos and Ganymede, sowing fear. Then, when their resolve cracks, we'll deliver the final blow to their homeworld." Her words hung in the cold chamber like a guillotine's blade. 4. The roar builds back in Earth's orbit. The valiant Dawn drifted silently near the shattered remains of Orion's Gate. General Rao paced the command deck, her eyes tracing the wreckage's ominous silhouette. Beside her, Lieutenant Arjun Malhotra keyed a comlink. "Ma'am, Titan convoys are loaded. Europa mining rigs stand ready. Europa's engineering guild has finished retrofitting the stealth modules." Rao exhaled, steeling herself. "Tell them to deploy at 500 hours. Let the galaxy feel our unity across every frontier." On Callisto's ice fields, volunteer battalions huddled around crackling fire pits. Their commander, Captain Evangeline Santos, stared up at the dark sky. "Let them come," she whispered. "They'll find no broken spirits here." V-dawn of the next war as Earth prepared for the storm to come, a new bond formed among its scattered peoples. Scientists, soldiers, miners and civilians, all once divided by distance and politics, now shared a singular purpose. Across the solar highways and subspace relays, transmissions carried messages of solidarity for Reyes, for Rao, for humanity. And somewhere beyond Neptune's orbit, ships of the Helion Pact and the Vega Collective darkened into stealth mode, converging on Earth's gathering flotilla. Their captains brought gifts of advanced shielding arrays and nanite drones, tangible proof of alliances forged in the furnace of war. In her private quarters aboard the Valiant Dawn, General Rao allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She touched the locket bearing Chancellor Reyes's portrait. "We fight for her," she murmured, "but we fight for all those who dare to dream among the stars." Outside her porthole, the pale blue orb of Earth glowed with defiance. Above it all, the silent void waited, an empty stage upon which the next act of this cosmic drama would unfold. Humanity had unleashed its fury, and now its unified roar echoed into the dark, daring the galaxy to respond. The gauntlet was thrown, the die was cast, and the war for all worlds had truly begun.